Listen carefully, because this is not for everyone. The people who win in life are not more talented, not more lucky, and not more gifted. They are obsessed. Obsessed with improving when others rest. Obsessed with discipline when others complain. Obsessed with their vision when the world doubts them. This audiobook will make you uncomfortable, because obsession demands sacrifice. But if you're tired of being average, tired of starting over, tired of watching others pass you, then understand this one truth. Success doesn't respond to interest. It only responds to obsession. And once you accept that, there is no going back. Chapter 1. Obsession is not normal, and that's the point. Let's start by clearing the lie. Obsession is not normal. And that's exactly why it works. If obsession were normal, everyone would be successful. If obsession were common, greatness would be average. If obsession were comfortable, it wouldn't separate anyone from anything. But it doesn't. It separates winners from spectators, builders from talkers, people who finish from people who always start over. You have been told, directly or indirectly, that obsession is unhealthy, too extreme, too intense, too much. And you need to understand something very clearly. That message rarely comes from people who are winning. It comes from people who benefit when you stay average. It comes from people who are uncomfortable with your focus. It comes from people who want you to stay relatable, reachable, and predictable. You have a choice. You can be understood, or you can be exceptional. Most people choose to be understood. They want approval. They want agreement. They want comfort. That's the key. The moment you decide to pursue something meaningful, something demanding, something that requires everything you have, you stop being relatable. And that makes people nervous. So they label you obsessed, unbalanced, too serious. What they're really saying is this: your discipline makes me uncomfortable. And that is not your problem. Normal thinking produces normal results. Normal effort creates normal outcomes. Say it again. Normal effort creates normal outcomes. If your actions look like everyone else's, your life will look like everyone else's. Average schedules, average habits, average standards. And then people wonder why nothing changes. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your discipline. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about motivation. It's about obsession. Obsession is the refusal to negotiate with weakness. Obsession is the decision to show up even when no one is watching. Obsession is doing what needs to be done long after the excitement fades. History doesn't remember balanced people. It doesn't remember the ones who clocked out early. It doesn't remember the ones who protected their comfort. It doesn't remember the ones who needed perfect conditions. History remembers obsession. It remembers athletes who trained when everyone else slept. Builders who worked while others relaxed. Creators who failed publicly and kept going privately. Comfort never built anything legendary. Comfort maintains. Obsession creates. And this is where most people get it wrong. They keep asking the wrong question. They ask, am I doing too much? They ask, is this healthy? They ask, is this sustainable? Wrong questions. The real question is this: is my goal big enough to demand obsession? Because if your goal doesn't require sacrifice, it's too small. If your goal fits neatly into a comfortable life, it won't change that life. If your goal doesn't scare you a little, it won't transform you. You have a choice. You can lower the goal to match your comfort, or you can raise your discipline to match the goal. That's the key. Obsessed people are misunderstood because they operate on a different frequency. They don't explain. They don't justify. They don't seek permission. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval to be disciplined. You don't need validation to work hard. You don't need consensus to commit. Most people are not against your success. They're against the discomfort your success exposes in them. So they project. They say you're doing too much because they're doing too little. They say you're obsessed because they're distracted. They say you should relax because they've already quit. And if you listen to them, you will slowly talk yourself out of your own potential. Here's the psychological truth. The human brain seeks efficiency. It wants the easiest path with the least resistance. Obsession interrupts that pattern. Obsession forces structure where chaos used to live. Discipline where excuses used to hide. Standards where emotions used to decide. And your mind will resist that at first. It will tell you to slow down. It will tell you to wait. It will tell you tomorrow is fine. That's not intuition. That's conditioning. You've been conditioned to normalize average behavior. Work when you feel like it. Quit when it's uncomfortable. Explain instead of execute. Obsessed people break that conditioning. They don't ask how they feel. They ask what the standard is. And then they meet it. You have a choice. Every morning. Every decision. Every moment where you could either act or delay. And here's the part most people avoid. Obsession is lonely. You will outgrow conversations. You will outgrow environments. You will outgrow people who only know the old version of you. That's not arrogance. That's growth. You don't need to drag anyone with you. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to announce your path. You need to walk it. Quietly. Relentlessly. Obsessively. Because obsession isn't loud. It's consistent. It's showing up again. And again. And again. When motivation disappears. When applause is absent. When progress feels slow. That's where obsession lives. Not in the highlight moments. In the invisible ones. And let's be clear. This is not about being reckless. It's not about burnout. It's not about destroying your health. It's about prioritization. It's not about intensity all the time. It's about consistency over time. That's the key. Obsessed people don't do everything. They do the right things repeatedly. They remove distractions. They reduce options. They simplify their world so their energy has direction. If your life feels scattered, it's because your focus is scattered. If your progress is slow, it's because your commitment is diluted. Obsession concentrates power, and power changes outcomes. You must stop romanticizing balance if balance is keeping you stuck. Balance is a luxury after mastery, not before it. First comes obsession, then comes control, then comes freedom, not the other way around. You don't accidentally build something meaningful. You don't casually become disciplined. You don't stumble into excellence. You decide. You commit. You repeat. That's it. And yes, people will question you. They'll say you're different. They'll say you've changed. But different is the goal. Changed is the requirement. You are not here to fit in. You are here to build something that didn't exist before. And that demands obsession. So stop asking if you're doing too much. Ask instead, am I doing enough to justify the life I say I want? Because normal effort creates normal outcomes. And you didn't come this far to stay normal. You have a choice. Stay understandable, or become undeniable. That choice will define everything that comes next. You've accepted that obsession is not the problem. It's the standard. Now it's time to confront the real enemy. Average behavior disguised as comfort. Chapter 2. Average is a decision you make every day. Average is not an accident. It's a decision. Made quietly. Made daily. Made in moments that feel small enough to ignore. One skipped workout. One delayed task. One excuse you tell yourself and don't challenge. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. And that's why average is so dangerous. Because no one wakes up and chooses failure. They choose comfort. They choose convenience. They choose later instead of now. And later becomes never. You have a choice. Not once. Not when motivation hits. Every day. Average is built in inches, not miles. It's built when you hit snooze instead of standing up. When you scroll instead of focusing. When you tell yourself, it's fine just this once. That's the key. This once is never once. It's a pattern in disguise. High performers understand this at a level most people never reach. They don't obsess over big moments. They obsess over small details. Habits. Focus. Things average people treat casually. Average people manage time. Obsessed people protect it. Average people react to the day. Obsessed people design it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If your days look like everyone else's, your future will too. Same routines. Same distractions. Same conversations. Same excuses. Same outcomes. Normal effort creates normal outcomes. Say it again. Normal effort creates normal outcomes. Average is not about lack of intelligence. It's not about lack of opportunity. It's not about lack of potential. It's about lack of standards. And standards are choices. You don't rise to them once. You live inside them daily. Most people don't fail because they can't do the work. They fail because they negotiate with themselves. They bargain. I'll do it tomorrow. I deserve a break. I've been busy. It's not about the excuse. It's about discipline. That's the key. Discipline removes negotiation. Discipline says, this is what we do, regardless of mood. Discipline turns effort into identity. You don't wake up and ask if you're disciplined. You wake up and execute. Average behavior thrives on flexibility. I'll see how I feel. I'll adjust if needed. I'll try. Obsessed behavior thrives on structure. Fixed routines. Non-negotiable actions. Clear priorities. And structure feels restrictive until you see the results. Here's the psychology behind it. The brain is wired to conserve energy. It prefers habits over decisions. It prefers comfort over growth. Every time you delay, your brain gets rewarded with relief. Relief feels good. So the brain learns. Delay equals safety. Do that enough times and delay becomes automatic. That's how average is trained. Not through failure. Through repetition. What you tolerate, you repeat. Say it again. What you tolerate, you repeat. If you tolerate being late, you repeat it. If you tolerate inconsistency, you repeat it. If you tolerate distraction, you repeat it. High performers are ruthless about tolerance. They don't tolerate sloppy mornings. They don't tolerate wasted hours. They don't tolerate broken promises to themselves. Not because they're extreme, because they're precise. You have a choice. You can keep reacting to your environment, or you can control it. And control starts with routine. Obsessed people don't wake up wondering what to do. They already decided yesterday. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems. Wake up time. Work blocks. Training schedules. Recovery rituals. Boring. Predictable. Effective. Average people chase excitement. Obsessed people chase consistency. Because consistency compounds. One focused hour a day beats 10 distracted hours a week. One disciplined habit beats bursts of motivation. That's the key. If your progress feels slow, look at your days. Not your goals. Your days. How you start them. How you spend them. How you end them. Most people want massive change with minimal disruption. It doesn't work that way. Obsession rewrites the daily routine. It changes what you do when no one is watching. It changes what you say no to. It changes how seriously you take small commitments. And let's be clear, this is not about perfection. It's about awareness. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You need to stop lying to yourself about your patterns. Notice where you leak time. Notice where you hesitate. Notice where you compromise. That's where average lives. And average survives because it feels reasonable. It's just one day. It's not a big deal. I'll make it up later. Later doesn't fix patterns. Discipline does. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone to agree with your standards. You don't need applause for doing the work. You don't need validation to stay consistent. Most people won't understand why you're so strict with yourself. That's fine. They're not living your life. They're not chasing your goals. They're not paying the price for your future. You are. And the price is paid daily. In choices no one celebrates. In routines no one sees. In discipline no one claps for. That's the difference. Average people wait for pressure to force change. Obsessed people apply pressure early. They don't wait for consequences. They build standards. And standards simplify life. No debate. No drama. No excuses. You either meet the standard or you don't. And if you don't, you correct immediately. Not with guilt. With action. That's the key. Stop making emotional decisions about daily actions. Emotion is unreliable. Mood is temporary. Discipline is stable. It's not about feeling ready. It's about showing up anyway. And once you understand this, everything shifts. You stop overthinking. You stop delaying. You stop pretending you'll suddenly become someone else tomorrow. You become that person today through behavior. One choice at a time. So here are the practical instructions. Stop starting your day without intention. Decide the night before what matters most. Stop multitasking. Focus on one task until it's done. Stop negotiating with your non-negotiables. If it's important, it's scheduled. Start protecting your mornings. Start tracking your habits. Start eliminating one distraction at a time. Not all at once. One by one. That's how obsession is built. Not through intensity. Through repetition. You have a choice. You can keep living on autopilot. Or you can take control of the smallest units of your life, your days. Because days become weeks. Weeks become years. Years become outcomes. Average is not who you are. It's what you've been practicing. And anything practiced can be changed. You don't need a new personality. You need new standards. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer compromises. You don't need a breakthrough. You need discipline. Lock this in. Average is a decision you make every day. So is obsession. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. You've stopped pretending average just happens. You've recognized it as a choice. Now it's time to learn how real progress is built. Quietly, privately, without announcement. You've taken control of your days. Now you must protect your focus. Chapter 3. Obsession thrives in silence. There is a reason real winners move quietly. Not because they are afraid. Not because they are unsure. But because silence protects power. Obsession does not announce itself. It executes. And this is where most people sabotage their progress without realizing it. They talk. They explain. They justify. They broadcast plans before results exist. And every word they release drains pressure. That's the key. Pressure is fuel. Silence keeps it contained. The moment you start talking about what you're going to do, your brain gets a small reward. Validation, pension, agreement. It feels like progress, but it's not. It's a substitute. Psychologically, the brain doesn't fully separate talking about action from taking action. So when you explain your plans, your mind relaxes. Urgency drops. Drive softens. That's why people who talk the most often do the least. Winners understand this. They don't need witnesses. They don't need encouragement. They don't need applause. They need results. You have a choice. You can impress people early with words, or you can shock them later with outcomes. Most people choose early attention. Obsessed people choose delayed impact. Build in silence. Let results speak. Say it again. Build in silence. Let results speak. Silence is not weakness. Silence is discipline. It's the ability to hold your vision without leaking it, to work without being seen, to progress without being praised. And that's uncomfortable, because humans crave validation. We want someone to say, "Good job." We want confirmation we're on the right path. We want reassurance. But obsession doesn't need reassurance. It needs repetition. Day after day. Task after task. Without commentary. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone to understand why you're quiet. You don't need to explain your schedule. You don't need to defend your focus. Explaining is a form of seeking approval. And approval weakens obsession. That's the key. The more you explain, the less you execute. Because every explanation is an invitation for opinion. Every opinion creates doubt. Every doubt costs energy. Obsessed people reduce noise. They don't engage in debates about their goals. They don't argue with skeptics. They don't try to convert others. They let time do the talking. Here's the behavioral truth. Average people talk because talking feels productive. Obsessed people work because work produces results. Average people post progress. Obsessed people create progress. And notice this. The people who question your silence are often the same ones who questioned your ambition. They're uncomfortable when they can't track you. They're uneasy when they don't know your next move. That's fine. Silence is not secrecy. It's focus. Silence removes distraction. Silence removes comparison. Silence removes external pressure. And pressure, when self-directed, is powerful. Talking releases it. Think about it. Every time you announce a goal, you feel a small sense of relief. Like something is off your chest. But that relief is the enemy. You're not supposed to feel relieved. You're supposed to feel driven. That tension you feel when no one knows your plan? That's obsession forming. That's the key. Silence keeps the edge sharp. Now let's get practical. What do you need to stop doing? Stop announcing goals before they're complete. Stop explaining your routine to people who don't live it. Stop seeking validation for discipline. If it's working, you don't need approval. If it's not working, approval won't fix it. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. What do you need to start doing? Start working without witnesses. Start measuring progress privately. Start letting outcomes speak for you. That doesn't mean isolation forever. It means isolation during construction. No one announces a building while it's still scaffolding. They reveal it when it stands. Your life is under construction. Silence is scaffolding. And let's address the fear underneath the talking. Fear of failing quietly. Fear of wasting time without recognition. Fear of not being seen. Obsessed people accept that fear. They don't try to eliminate it. They move anyway, because they understand this. If you fail quietly, you can correct quietly. If you struggle privately, you grow without pressure. If you succeed silently, you arrive powerful. Public failure invites opinions. Private failure invites learning. That's the key. Silence creates space to adjust. And adjustment is where mastery lives. Look at anyone truly dominant in their field. They didn't document every step. They didn't explain every move. They disappeared. Then they returned different. That's not luck. That's discipline. And discipline doesn't perform for an audience. It performs for results. You have a choice. You can spend energy managing perceptions, or you can spend energy building skill. You can chase visibility, or you can chase competence. Visibility without competence collapses. Competence without visibility eventually dominates. Silence accelerates competence, because focus deepens when no one is watching. No need to impress. No need to rush. No need to perform. Just work. And again. And again. Build in silence. Let results speak. This chapter is not telling you to disappear from the world. It's telling you to disappear from distraction, from commentary, from noise, from unnecessary interaction. Not forever, but for long enough to change. Because obsession needs protection, and silence is protection. When you talk less, you listen more. When you listen more, you notice patterns. When you notice patterns, you improve faster. That's the key. Silence sharpens awareness, and awareness sharpens discipline. So stop narrating your life. Stop turning progress into performance. Stop turning discipline into content. Your work doesn't need a caption. It needs consistency. Your goals don't need witnesses. They need execution. And when results arrive, you won't need to explain anything. They'll see it. They'll feel it. They'll ask how you did it. And even then, you won't say much. Because the work already spoke. You have a choice. Talk now and stay the same. Or stay quiet and become different. One drains power. The other builds it. Lock this in. Obsession thrives in silence. Discipline grows in isolation. Results end all conversations. You've learned to stop announcing. You've learned to protect your focus. Now it's time to understand what happens when motivation disappears and why obsession doesn't care. Chapter 4. Motivation is temporary. Obsession is relentless. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It shows up when conditions are perfect. It disappears the moment discomfort arrives. That's not a flaw in you. That's how motivation works. And if you're still depending on it, you've already limited your future. Motivation is emotional energy. Emotion is unstable. Unstable systems collapse under pressure. That's the key. Obsession does not run on emotion. It runs on standards. When motivation fades, obsession works anyway. You have a choice. You can wait until you feel ready. Or you can act because the mission demands it. Most people wait. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel less tired, less stressed, less unsure. And while they wait, time moves on. Obsessed people don't wait. They move first. They act while uncertain. They work through resistance. Because they understand something most people never do. Feelings don't decide. Standards do. Say it again. Feelings don't decide. Standards do. If you let feelings decide your actions, your progress will always be inconsistent. Some days you'll show up. Some days you won't. And inconsistency kills momentum. Motivation is a spark. Obsession is a furnace. A spark feels exciting. A furnace keeps running. Here's the psychological truth. Your brain is designed to avoid pain and seek comfort. Discomfort triggers resistance. Resistance lowers motivation. So the moment something becomes hard, boring, repetitive, or uncomfortable, motivation drops. That's not weakness. That's biology. But obsession overrides biology with structure. It doesn't ask, "Do I feel like this?" It asks, "What is required?" And then it executes. That's the key. Obsessed people don't ask how they feel in the morning. They already decided what they do. They removed negotiation from the process. Because negotiation is where discipline dies. Every time you ask yourself, "Should I?" you open the door to excuses. And excuses are always ready. "I'm tired. I'm busy. I'll do it later." It's not about the excuse. It's about discipline. Discipline closes the door. It says, "This is who I am. This is what I do. This is not optional." You don't need their permission. You don't need permission from your mood. You don't need permission from your energy level. You don't need permission from your circumstances. Permission seeking is a habit of the undisciplined. Obsessed people give themselves orders, and they follow them. Think about how often motivation has betrayed you. You felt fired up. You started strong. You told people you were committed. And then life happened. The alarm went off early. The work got repetitive. The results didn't come fast enough. Motivation left. And without obsession, progress stopped. This is why motivation-based lives are unstable. They depend on something you cannot control. Obsession builds control. Control over schedule. Control over habits. Control over behavior. Even when emotions fluctuate. That's the key. Standards don't care how you feel. A standard is a line you don't cross. A rule you don't negotiate. A commitment you keep regardless of mood. Obsessed people live by standards. They don't train when they feel like it. They train because it's scheduled. They don't work when they're inspired. They work because it's required. They don't wait for clarity. They move and create clarity through action. You have a choice. You can keep reacting to how you feel. Or you can decide who you are. Identity beats emotion every time. If you see yourself as someone who finishes, you finish. If you see yourself as someone who shows up, you show up. Not because it's easy, because it's expected. That's the key. Obsessed people expect discipline from themselves. They don't need hype. They don't need speeches. They don't need reminders. They need structure. And structure replaces motivation. Routines. Schedules. Non-negotiables. These things may feel boring, but boring is stable. Boring is repeatable. Boring builds momentum. Excitement fades. Structure remains. Now let's be direct. What do you need to stop doing? Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop checking your mood before acting. Stop using low energy as an excuse. Low energy is normal. Lack of standards is optional. Stop romanticizing motivation. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. What do you need to start doing? Start deciding your actions in advance. Start scheduling your priorities. Start acting on principle, not emotion. When it's time to work, work. When it's time to train, train. When it's time to rest, rest. No debate. That's the key. Obsession simplifies life. No internal arguments. No constant decision-making. No wasted mental energy. You just execute. And execution builds confidence. Not the other way around. Most people think confidence creates action. It doesn't. Action creates confidence. And obsession creates action, even when confidence is absent. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You don't need to feel focused to act focused. You don't need to feel disciplined to act disciplined. At first, feelings follow. This is where real transformation happens. When you stop waiting for motivation to rescue you, and start relying on standards to carry you. And understand this. Obsession doesn't mean pushing at full intensity all the time. It means consistency over drama. Showing up when tired. Doing the minimum required when exhausted. Maintaining the habit even when performance drops. That's discipline, not perfection. Persistence. And persistence compounds. One disciplined day doesn't change your life. One disciplined month starts to. One disciplined year rewrites it. But only if you stop negotiating. You have a choice. You can keep letting motivation dictate your behavior. Or you can decide that standards decide for you. One path feels good at first and fails later. The other feels hard at first and wins later. That's the key. Obsessed people choose delayed comfort. They understand that discipline now creates freedom later. Freedom from inconsistency. Freedom from regret. Freedom from starting over. Motivation will leave you at the worst possible moment. Obsession will stay. Because obsession is not a feeling. It's a decision repeated daily. And once you understand this, you stop chasing emotional highs. You stop needing to be in the mood. You stop waiting for the right time. You become reliable. And reliable people win. Lock this in. Motivation is temporary. Obsession is relentless. Feelings don't decide. Standards do. You've stopped depending on motivation. You've replaced it with discipline. Now it's time to direct that discipline toward the only competition that truly matters. You don't need to beat others yet. First, you must beat who you used to be. Chapter 5. Obsession means outworking your old self first. Your only real competition is not the people around you. It's not the ones ahead of you. It's not the ones posting their wins. It's not the ones getting attention. Your real competition is who you were yesterday. And until you understand that, you will waste energy fighting the wrong battles. Obsession doesn't chase others. It hunts stagnation. Daily. That's the key. Most people measure themselves against strangers. Obsessed people measure themselves against their own standards. They don't ask, "Am I better than them?" They ask, "Am I better than I was?" Because improvement compounds faster than comparison. You have a choice. You can keep watching what others are doing, or you can put that energy into becoming harder to beat by yourself. Comparison feels productive, but it's passive. Progress feels boring, but it's powerful. Obsession understands this. The old version of you is comfortable, predictable, lazy in familiar ways. It knows how to avoid discomfort. It knows how to justify delay. It knows exactly how to keep you average. Obsession declares war on that version. Not once. Every day. And the fight is never dramatic. It's quiet. It's choosing to work when you don't feel like it. It's finishing what you start. It's not repeating yesterday's excuses. That's the key. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need to outwork your old self consistently. Most people aim for perfection. They wait for ideal conditions. They want flawless execution. Obsessed people aim for progress. 1% better. 1 rep more. 1 page more. 1 focused hour. Small wins. And small wins, repeated, become violent over time. That's not a motivational phrase. It's mathematics. Compounding doesn't care how small the input is. It cares how consistent it is. Winners obsess over progress, not perfection. Perfection creates delay. Progress creates momentum. You have a choice. You can keep postponing action until conditions are perfect. Or you can move forward imperfectly and improve along the way. That's the key. Your old self waits. Your obsessed self moves. And movement builds identity. Identity changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. This is how real transformation happens. Now let's talk about stagnation. Stagnation is not standing still. It's repeating the same effort and expecting a different result. Same routines, same habits, same comfort level, day after day. Obsession attacks stagnation aggressively. It asks uncomfortable questions. What did I avoid today? What did I delay? What did I tolerate that I shouldn't have? Because what you tolerate, you repeat. Say it again. What you tolerate, you repeat. If you tolerate laziness, it grows. If you tolerate inconsistency, it multiplies. If you tolerate excuses, they become automatic. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. That's the key. Discipline shines a light on patterns. And patterns reveal the truth. Not your intentions. Not your plans. Your behavior. You don't rise based on what you want. You rise based on what you practice. Obsessed people practice winning daily. Not by chasing massive breakthroughs, but by refusing 0 days. No 0 days. Say it again. No 0 days. A 0 day is a day where you do nothing toward your goal. No effort. No progress. No investment. Obsessed people don't allow 0 days. Even when tired, even when busy, even when discouraged, they still do something. 10 minutes. 1 page. 1 set. 1 call. Minimal effort is still effort. And effort maintains momentum. That's the key. Momentum is fragile. Once lost, it's hard to rebuild. Obsessed people protect it fiercely. They understand this psychological truth. Action creates energy. Inaction drains it. Waiting makes things heavier. Starting makes them lighter. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to start small. You don't need permission to improve quietly. You don't need permission to focus on yourself. Most people won't notice your progress early. But early attention is a distraction. Focus on beating yesterday. Yesterday's excuses. Yesterday's laziness. Yesterday's fear. That's the real opponent. Now let's be clear. Outworking your old self is not about punishment. It's about honesty. It's about seeing clearly where you've been soft, where you've settled, where you've made peace with average, and then choosing differently. You have a choice. You can protect the comfort of your old identity, or you can challenge it. Growth requires conflict, internal conflict, between who you were and who you're becoming. Obsessed people choose growth, even when it's uncomfortable. And they don't try to win every day. They try to win today. That's it. Today's workout. Today's task. Today's discipline. One day at a time. Because consistency beats intensity. And intensity without consistency burns out. That's the key. You don't need heroic effort. You need reliable effort. Reliable effort builds trust with yourself. And self-trust changes everything. When you trust yourself, you stop overthinking. You stop doubting. You stop second-guessing. You act. And action compounds confidence. Now here are the practical instructions. What do you need to stop doing? Stop comparing timelines. Stop replaying past failures. Stop aiming for perfect days. Stop quitting days early just because they started badly. A bad morning does not require a bad day. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. What do you need to start doing? Start tracking small wins. Start measuring effort, not outcome. Start asking, did I beat yesterday? Even by 1%. Start enforcing no 0 days. If you can't give full effort, give minimum effort. Minimum effort keeps the chain unbroken. And an unbroken chain builds identity. Identity is the foundation of obsession. You are not trying to win once. You are trying to become someone who wins consistently. And that takes repetition. Uncelebrated repetition. Obsessed people don't need constant proof they're improving. They trust the process. They know that today's small effort will be tomorrow's advantage. And over time, the gap widens. Quietly, relentlessly, until the old version of them is unrecognizable. That's the goal. Not to impress others. To outgrow yourself. You have a choice. You can stay loyal to who you've been, or you can commit to who you're becoming. One requires comfort. The other requires obsession. And obsession always wins. Lock this in. Your only real competition is your past behavior. Beat it today. Then do it again tomorrow. No 0 days. No excuses. No negotiations. You've stopped chasing perfection. You've committed to progress. Now it's time to understand why effort alone is not enough, and why focus is the true multiplier. You've learned to outwork your old self. Now you must learn where to aim that work. Chapter 6. The world rewards focus, not talent. Talent is overrated. Not because talent doesn't matter, but because talent without focus is useless. Raw ability means nothing if it's scattered. Potential means nothing if it's unfocused. Gifts mean nothing if they're wasted on distraction. That's the key. The world does not reward what you could do. It rewards what you consistently do. And consistency is a product of focus. You have a choice. You can rely on talent and hope it carries you. Or you can develop focus and make yourself dangerous. History is full of talented people who never finished. It's also full of focused people who dominated without being the most gifted. Focused effort beats gifted distraction every time. Talent decays without obsession. You've seen it. The smart one who never applied themselves. The gifted athlete who didn't train. The creative mind who never finished anything. Talent makes things possible. Focus makes them inevitable. That's the key. Focus is not just attention. It's elimination. Elimination of noise. Elimination of options. Elimination of escapes. Obsessed people don't do more things. They do fewer things, better. They don't chase every opportunity. They commit to one direction. And this is uncomfortable, because distraction feels productive. Checking messages, switching tasks, consuming information. It feels like movement, but it's not progress. Progress requires depth. Depth requires focus. And focus requires sacrifice. You have to give up being everywhere. You have to give up being available. You have to give up being entertained. That's the price. And most people won't pay it. They want success without isolation, progress without prioritization, results without discipline. It doesn't work. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to go quiet. You don't need permission to say no. You don't need permission to choose one thing and ignore the rest. Here's the psychological reality. The human brain is terrible at multitasking. Every switch costs energy. Every interruption fragments attention. Fragmented attention produces fragmented results. Obsessed people protect their focus like an asset. Because it is. Focus is the currency of achievement. Where focus goes, power flows. Say it again. Where focus goes, power flows. If your focus is divided, your power is diluted. If your attention is scattered, your progress is slow. This is why average people stay average. Not because they lack ability, because they lack focus. They try to improve everything at once. They chase multiple goals. They spread themselves thin. And thin effort produces thin results. Obsessed people do the opposite. They narrow their world. Less social noise. Fewer opinions. Fewer escapes. They stop consuming so much. They stop reacting to everything. They stop letting other people's priorities hijack their day. That's the key. Focus is saying no to good things so you can say yes to the right thing. And this is where discipline replaces weakness. Weakness wants stimulation. Discipline wants progress. Weakness checks the phone. Discipline checks the task list. Weakness avoids boredom. Discipline embraces repetition. It's not about intelligence. It's not about creativity. It's about discipline. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they're distracted. Distraction is the silent killer of potential. And it's socially accepted. Everyone is busy. Everyone is overwhelmed. Everyone is distracted. So no one questions it. But obsessed people see it clearly. They understand that distraction is a choice. You have a choice. You can keep letting your attention be stolen, or you can take control of it. And control starts with ruthless prioritization. Obsessed people know their one thing: the skill, the craft, the mission. Everything else is secondary. They don't ask, what do I feel like doing? They ask, what matters most right now? That's the key. And once that question is answered, everything else waits. Emails wait. Messages wait. Noise waits. The work comes first. Now let's be practical. What do you need to stop doing? Stop multitasking. Stop keeping endless tabs open. Stop switching tasks when things get uncomfortable. Stop consuming content that doesn't move you forward. Stop saying yes to things that drain focus. It's not about time management. It's about attention management. What do you need to start doing? Start identifying your one priority for the day. Start working in uninterrupted blocks. Start removing distractions before they become temptations. Phone out of reach. Notifications off. Clear workspace. Simple actions. Massive impact. That's the key. Focus is not something you feel. It's something you enforce. You don't wait until you're focused. You create conditions that force focus. Obsessed people design environments that support discipline. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on structure. Because willpower is limited. Structure is reliable. And once focus becomes a habit, results accelerate. Not because you're working harder, but because your effort is finally aligned. Aligned effort compounds. Scattered effort disappears. And understand this. Focus doesn't mean ignoring rest. It means intentional rest. Rest that restores. Not rest that distracts. Obsessed people rest with purpose. They don't escape endlessly. They recharge so they can return sharper. That's discipline. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to be unavailable. You don't need permission to protect your time. You don't need permission to prioritize your future. People will call you obsessed. But that means you're focused. And focus looks extreme to the distracted. Always has. But when results show up, the conversation changes. Suddenly you're lucky. Suddenly you're talented. Suddenly you're gifted. They didn't see the hours of focus, the elimination, the isolation. They only see the outcome. Let them. Your job is not to explain. Your job is to execute. Where focus goes, power flows. Lock that in. Talent opens the door. Focus keeps it open. Talent gets attention. Focus builds mastery. And mastery wins. You've learned that outworking your old self is not enough if your effort is scattered. Now you understand the multiplier. Focus turns obsession into dominance. And once focus is established, something else becomes unavoidable. Sacrifice. Because focus always demands it. You've learned to narrow your attention. Now you must accept what that narrowing will cost you. And what it will give you in return. Chapter 7. Obsession demands sacrifice. And that's the price. Everything has a cost. Nothing is free. Nothing is neutral. Every choice you make is a trade. You are paying right now. You're paying with time. You're paying with energy. You're paying with attention. The only question is this: what are you paying for? That's the key. Average people pay with regret. Obsessed people pay with comfort. And comfort is cheap compared to regret. You have a choice. You can sacrifice now and live better later. Or you can live comfortably now and pay for it later. There is no third option. Obsession demands sacrifice. Not because it's cruel, but because it's honest. Success costs something. Always has. Always will. The problem is not sacrifice. The problem is people sacrificing the wrong things. They sacrifice their future for entertainment. They sacrifice their potential for approval. They sacrifice discipline for convenience. And then they call obsession too much. It's not too much. It's precise. Obsessed people don't sacrifice success. They sacrifice distractions. Say it again. You don't sacrifice success, you sacrifice distractions. That's the key. Late nights. Early mornings. Missed parties. This is not loss. This is investment. You're not missing out. You're buying in. Buying focus. Buying skill. Buying momentum. And momentum is expensive. Psychologically, sacrifice hurts because it exposes priorities. What you're willing to give up reveals what you actually value. If you won't give up comfort, you value comfort more than growth. If you won't give up approval, you value validation more than progress. And there's no judgment here. Only truth. Because results don't care about intentions. They respond to behavior. That's the key. Obsessed people accept trade-offs early. They don't romanticize balance. They don't chase perfect schedules. They don't wait for ideal conditions. They choose. And choice is painful, because choosing one thing means rejecting another. But rejecting distractions is not deprivation. It's direction. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to say no. You don't need permission to leave early. You don't need permission to skip what doesn't serve you. People will question your absence. Let them. They won't question your results later. Sacrifice looks extreme to people who avoid it. Always has. Let's get specific. What are you afraid to give up? Comfort routines. Late night scrolling. Mindless conversations. Easy pleasures. None of these are evil. But none of them are free. They cost focus. They cost energy. They cost consistency. And consistency is the backbone of obsession. That's the key. Most people try to add success to their life without removing anything. It doesn't work. You can't pile discipline on top of chaos. Something has to go. And obsessed people are willing to cut. They cut distractions without apology. They cut excuses without negotiation. They cut habits that don't align. This feels lonely at first, because sacrifice separates you. Different sleep schedules, different priorities, different conversations. But separation is temporary. Regret is permanent. You have a choice. You can belong to the crowd now, or you can stand alone and lead later. And understand this. Sacrifice is not punishment. It's alignment. You are aligning your actions with your ambition. And ambition without sacrifice is fantasy. That's the key. Let's talk about discipline. Because sacrifice without discipline becomes resentment. You start feeling deprived. You start feeling bitter. You start blaming the goal. That's weakness. It's not about motivation. It's not about inspiration. It's about discipline. Discipline removes emotion from sacrifice. You don't debate. You don't negotiate. You execute. Discipline says, this is the plan. And then follows it. Even when it's boring. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Obsessed people don't wait to feel ready to sacrifice. They decide once, and then they live with that decision daily. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop justifying distractions. Stop calling comfort self-care when it's avoidance. Stop pretending balance means equal effort everywhere. Balance is seasonal. Obsession is intentional. There will be seasons where the work comes first. Accept that. Here's what you must start doing. Start treating your time like an asset. Start budgeting energy, not just hours. Start choosing long-term wins over short-term relief. Make sacrifice visible. Early alarms. Scheduled work blocks. Intentional isolation. Not forever, but for now. Because now is where momentum is built. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to outgrow people. You don't need permission to change routines. You don't need permission to want more. And here's the truth most people avoid. The pain of sacrifice is temporary. The pain of regret compounds. Sacrifice hurts up front. Regret hurts every day. Obsessed people understand delayed gratification. They know discomfort today buys freedom tomorrow. And they're willing to pay. That's the key. Sacrifice also sharpens identity. When you consistently give something up for a goal, your brain rewires. You stop seeing yourself as trying. You start seeing yourself as committed. Identity changes behavior. Committed people don't need motivation. They need structure. And structure supports sacrifice. Prepare your environment. Remove temptations. Reduce friction. Don't rely on strength. Rely on systems. Because strength fades. Systems endure. That's discipline. And discipline replaces weakness. Weakness asks, "Can I skip today?" Discipline says, "This is who I am." Weakness wants comfort now. Discipline wants results later. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about discipline. Say it again. It's not about talent, it's about discipline. You are not losing anything by sacrificing distractions. You are gaining clarity. You are gaining leverage. You are gaining self-respect. And self-respect changes everything. You walk differently. You speak differently. You decide faster. Because you trust yourself. And trust is built through kept promises. Every sacrifice kept is a promise honored. That's the key. Let others misunderstand. Let others stay comfortable. You are building something they don't see yet. And they won't see it until it's done. By then, the sacrifice will make sense. To them. It already makes sense to you. Lock this in. Obsession demands sacrifice. Sacrifice creates discipline. Discipline creates results. And results silence doubt. You've learned to focus. You've accepted the price. Now there's one more level. Because sacrifice is not just about what you give up. It's also about what you stop explaining. You've paid the price. Now it's time to master restraint. Chapter 8. Obsession is built through discipline, not mood. Mood is unreliable. Emotion is inconsistent. Energy fluctuates. Motivation lies. And yet most people build their lives around how they feel. That's the problem. Obsession is not emotional. Obsession is mechanical. It works when you don't feel like it. It shows up when the excitement is gone. It continues when the novelty dies. That's the key. Discipline is doing the work when emotion disappears. Obsession is discipline on repeat. Not once. Not occasionally. Daily. You have a choice. You can let mood decide your actions. Or you can let standards decide your behavior. Mood-based action creates inconsistency. Standard-based action creates identity. And identity is unbreakable. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait to feel motivated. They wait to feel inspired. Obsessed people don't wait. They act because it's scheduled. They act because it's expected. They act because that's who they are. Say it clearly. I do it because it's who I am. That's the key. Psychologically, mood is a signal, not a command. But weak discipline turns signals into orders. You feel tired, so you stop. You feel bored, so you quit. You feel uncomfortable, so you escape. This trains your brain to associate discomfort with retreat. And that creates fragility. Discipline does the opposite. Discipline teaches your brain that action is non-negotiable. Feeling good is optional. Showing up is mandatory. It's not about motivation. It's not about passion. It's about discipline. Say it again. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Obsession is not built by hype. It's built by systems. Systems beat willpower. Every time. Willpower is emotional. Systems are structural. Willpower asks, do I feel like it? Systems say, this is what happens next. That's the key. Rituals turn effort into identity. When you repeat an action at the same time, in the same way, regardless of mood, it stops being work. It becomes who you are. You don't debate brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate getting dressed. You just do it. Obsessed people build their craft the same way. They ritualize it. Same time. Same place. Same rules. No discussion. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to be disciplined. You don't need permission to outgrow excuses. You don't need permission to hold yourself to a higher standard. Here's where most people get stuck. They confuse discipline with punishment. They think discipline means suffering. It doesn't. Discipline means clarity. You remove decision fatigue. You remove emotional bargaining. You remove daily negotiation. You already decided. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop asking yourself how you feel before acting. Stop using mood as a measuring stick. Stop waiting for the right energy. The right energy comes after action, never before. Here's what you must start doing. Start building non-negotiable rituals. Start defining minimum standards. Start showing up ugly, tired, and imperfect. Consistency beats intensity. Every time. Obsessed people don't chase peak days. They protect baseline days. They make sure there are no 0 days. Even minimal effort maintains momentum. Momentum doesn't care about mood. It cares about motion. That's the key. Discipline also creates emotional stability. When your actions are predictable, your mind calms down. No internal debate. No guilt cycles. No shame spirals. You trust yourself. And trust is built through follow-through. Every disciplined action is a vote for the identity you want. Miss enough votes and the identity collapses. Keep enough votes and it becomes automatic. I do it because it's who I am. Say it again. I do it because it's who I am. Obsession anchored in identity doesn't burn out. Because it's not fueled by emotion. It's fueled by structure. Burnout comes from chaos, not commitment. From inconsistency, not effort. Discipline protects you from burnout by removing drama. No highs. No crashes. Just execution. That's the key. Let's talk about excuses. Excuses are emotional stories designed to protect comfort. I'm not in the right headspace. I'll start tomorrow. I need to recharge. Sometimes rest is real. Most of the time, it's avoidance. Discipline tells the truth. It asks one question. What's the standard today? Then it executes. No story. No justification. Just action. You have a choice. You can be ruled by mood. Or you can be guided by discipline. One creates volatility. The other creates power. And power compounds. Obsessed people don't rise and fall with emotion. They stay steady. They work on bad days. They work on boring days. They work on days that feel pointless. Because discipline doesn't need meaning. It needs commitment. That's the key. Here's a practical structure. Set a minimum daily standard. Not your best. Your baseline. The smallest action that keeps the identity alive. 10 minutes. 1 page. 1 set. 1 rep. No 0 days. Then when energy is high, you do more. But the minimum is sacred. Non-negotiable. This trains discipline without overwhelming willpower. And discipline trained gently lasts longer. Identity-based obsession is patient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It doesn't quit. It just shows up. Every day. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to be consistent. You don't need permission to be disciplined. You don't need permission to take yourself seriously. Let others chase motivation. You are building something stronger. You are building identity. And identity doesn't fade when emotion does. Lock this in. Mood is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation sparks action. Discipline sustains it. Obsession is discipline practiced long enough to become who you are. You are no longer trying. You are becoming. You've learned to sacrifice. You've learned to focus. You've learned to act without emotion. Now comes the final refinement. Because even disciplined obsession can be weakened by noise. Too many voices. Too many opinions. Too much explanation. You've built the structure. Now you must protect it. Chapter 9. Pressure is proof you're growing. Pressure is not the enemy. Comfort is. Pressure is the signal that you've left the familiar. That you've stepped beyond what you already know how to handle. That you're carrying more weight than before. That's the key. Average avoids pressure. Average escapes it. Average numbs it. Obsession seeks pressure. Because pressure is proof you're growing. Say it clearly. Pressure doesn't break me, it builds me. Most people misunderstand pressure. They think pressure means something is wrong. They assume stress means failure. They believe discomfort is a warning sign. It's not. Discomfort is data. It tells you you're expanding. It tells you you're stretching capacity. It tells you you're operating at the edge of who you used to be. You have a choice. You can interpret pressure as danger, or you can interpret pressure as development. One leads to retreat. The other leads to strength. That's the key. Psychologically, pressure activates responsibility. More expectations. Higher standards. Greater consequences. That weight feels heavy because it is heavy. You're not weak for feeling it. You're stronger than before for carrying it. Growth always feels heavier at first. Muscle tears before it grows. Responsibility strains before it stabilizes. Leadership feels overwhelming before it feels normal. Pressure is the cost of becoming more. And obsession pays the cost willingly. Average asks, how do I reduce pressure? Obsessed asks, how do I increase capacity? That's the difference. Pressure exposes gaps. Gaps in preparation. Gaps in discipline. Gaps in focus. That's not punishment. That's feedback. Pressure doesn't lie. It shows you exactly where you need to improve. That's the key. Here's where most people fail. They personalize pressure emotionally. They say, I can't handle this. This is too much. I'm not built for this. That's not truth. That's interpretation. Pressure is neutral. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't insult you. It just reveals you. It's not about being overwhelmed. It's about discipline. Discipline under pressure creates confidence. Confidence doesn't come from comfort. It comes from surviving weight you once thought would crush you. Pressure forges resilience. No shortcuts. No substitutes. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to grow under pressure. You don't need permission to feel challenged. You don't need permission to carry more than others can. If you want more than average, you must tolerate more than average. That's the price. Let's get practical. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop trying to eliminate pressure. Stop complaining about weight you chose to carry. Stop comparing your load to people playing smaller games. Pressure matches responsibility. If your pressure is high, your responsibility is high. That's not a curse. That's status. Here's what you must start doing. Start training under pressure. Start rehearsing difficulty. Start choosing environments that demand more from you. Pressure makes discipline visible. Anyone can act disciplined when things are easy. Pressure tests who you really are. And obsession welcomes the test. Say it again. Pressure doesn't break me, it builds me. Pressure also sharpens focus. Under pressure, distractions lose power. Excuses lose credibility. Priorities become clear. Pressure cuts away nonsense. It forces you to decide what actually matters. That's the key. Look at anyone operating at a high level. Athletes, leaders, builders, creators. They live under pressure. Deadlines, expectations, consequences. And instead of running from it, they adapt to it. They become calm inside chaos. That calm is trained. Pressure doesn't disappear. You just get stronger. You don't rise to the level of comfort. You fall to the level of discipline. Under pressure, discipline is everything. Routine saves you. Structure stabilizes you. Standards ground you. That's why obsessed people rely on systems, not emotions. Pressure crushes emotion-driven action. But discipline thrives under weight. It's not about stress, it's about discipline. Pressure also kills fantasy. You don't get to pretend under pressure. You don't get to fake preparation. You don't get to hide inconsistency. Pressure demands truth. And truth accelerates growth. Average avoids truth. Obsessed demands it. You have a choice. You can numb pressure with distraction. Or you can convert pressure into strength. One keeps you small. The other expands you. That's the key. Here's a mindset shift. Stop asking, why is this so hard? Start asking, what is this training me for? Pressure always prepares you for the next level. If you collapse now, you wouldn't survive what's coming. Pressure is preconditioning. It's building muscles you don't see yet. Mental endurance, emotional control, decision-making under stress. These aren't learned in comfort. They're forged under weight. Pressure doesn't care about your mood. Neither should you. Feelings don't decide. Standards do. When pressure hits, you execute basics. Sleep, nutrition, movement, focus. Discipline becomes survival. That's the key. Obsessed people don't dramatize pressure. They normalize it. This is part of the process. This is what growth feels like. This is proof I'm expanding. They don't panic. They adjust. Pressure reveals leaders. Under pressure, some people collapse. Others clarify. The difference is preparation. And preparation is discipline practiced long before pressure arrives. You don't rise under pressure. You reveal what you've built. So build something strong. Say it again. Pressure doesn't break me, it builds me. If you're feeling pressure right now, listen carefully. It means you're not average anymore. Average doesn't feel pressure. Average feels boredom. Pressure means responsibility. Responsibility means relevance. Relevance means growth. That's the key. But pressure has one weakness. Noise. Too many opinions under pressure creates confusion. Too many voices dilute focus. Too much access drains energy. To grow under pressure, you must protect your attention. You must reduce inputs. Limit exposure. Control your environment. Pressure plus noise breaks people. Pressure plus focus builds them. And focus requires distance. Distance from drama. Distance from distraction. Distance from unnecessary connection. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to step back. You don't need permission to protect your energy. You don't need permission to isolate while you build strength. Pressure is teaching you something important. You can't grow surrounded by everyone. Some growth requires solitude. Some strength requires silence. You've learned to accept obsession. You've learned to choose discipline. You've learned to carry pressure without running. Now you must learn to protect your growth. Because not everyone deserves access to the process. You've carried the weight. You've earned the next lesson. Now it's time to understand how isolation multiplies obsession. Chapter 10. Obsession eliminates the exit plan. Most people fail before they even begin. Not because they lack talent. Not because they lack opportunity. They fail because they leave themselves an exit, a backup plan, a safety net, a comfortable escape. That's the problem. Losers keep backups. Winners burn the bridge. Obsession eliminates the exit plan. Say it clearly. There is no alternative. That's the key. The human brain behaves differently when escape is available. When there's a way out, effort softens. Focus drifts. Standards slip. You don't push as hard when you know you can quit. That's not a character flaw. That's biology. The mind conserves energy when survival feels optional. Obsession removes the option. No retreat. No fallback. No comfort choice. You have a choice. You can design your life with escape hatches. Or you can design it with commitment. One creates hesitation. The other creates execution. That's the key. Plan B is emotionally comforting. It reduces anxiety. It feels responsible. It feels mature. But psychologically, it splits identity. Half of you commits. Half of you waits to bail. And divided focus produces divided results. Obsession demands singularity. One target. One direction. One mission. There is no alternative. History is clear on this. The people who change industries, rewrite standards, and dominate fields are not casually involved. They are cornered by their own commitment. They burn the bridge so going back is impossible. Comfort becomes unavailable. And when comfort is unavailable, creativity explodes. Pressure sharpens execution. Fear converts into focus. Discipline tightens. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop keeping emotional escape plans. Stop telling yourself, if this doesn't work, I'll just. Stop treating your main goal like a side option. That language trains your brain to quit early. Even if you don't say it out loud, your nervous system hears it. Exit plans reduce urgency. Urgency creates results. Here's what you must start doing. Start committing publicly or structurally. Start making decisions that make quitting painful. Start removing fallback comforts that weaken resolve. This isn't recklessness. It's clarity. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to commit fully. You don't need permission to scare yourself with responsibility. You don't need permission to bet on yourself. People will call you extreme. But extreme focus produces non-average outcomes. It's not about fear, it's about discipline. Discipline means you don't negotiate with doubt. You don't bargain with insecurity. You don't ask fear for advice. Fear always recommends safety. Obsession ignores it. When there is no alternative, execution becomes sharper. Decisions happen faster. Energy concentrates. Time stops being wasted. You stop dabbling. You start building. That's the key. Let's talk about why people cling to exit plans. Because exit plans protect ego. If I fail, I can say I never really tried. If it doesn't work, I had other options. That protects self-image, but it kills growth. Obsession demands ego death. You attach your identity to the work. You don't test it. You become it. I do it because it's who I am. Say it again. I do it because it's who I am. When identity is attached, you don't quit when it gets hard. You adapt. You refine. You endure. Exit plans are excuses in disguise. They allow mediocrity to hide behind responsibility. Obsession exposes truth. There is no alternative. This doesn't mean blind stubbornness. It means relentless adjustment without retreat. You don't quit the mission. You adjust the method. That's discipline. Most people confuse quitting with pivoting. Pivoting keeps commitment intact. Quitting abandons it. Obsessed people pivot endlessly, but they never retreat. That's the difference. You have a choice. You can keep one foot in, one foot out. Or you can step fully into the fire. One keeps you safe. The other makes you dangerous. That's the key. Let's get practical. Remove backup identities. Stop introducing yourself with multiple maybes. I'm kind of doing this. I'm trying that. I'll see how it goes. That language weakens self-belief. Choose one path. Claim it fully. Burn the bridge. This activates commitment bias. Once you declare identity, behavior follows. Your brain works harder to stay consistent with who you say you are. Use that. Obsession uses psychology intentionally. It's not about confidence. It's about structure. Structure beats feeling. Say it again. It's not about confidence, it's about discipline. Discipline doesn't need reassurance. It needs constraints. When options are limited, performance improves. That's why deadlines work. That's why pressure works. That's why obsession works. No alternatives means no distraction. Your mind stops wandering. It locks in. There is no alternative. This also changes how you respond to failure. When quitting isn't an option, failure becomes information. Not identity. Not a verdict. Just data. What needs to improve? What needs to change? What do I need to learn? No drama. No collapse. Just execution. Exit plans turn failure into shame. Obsession turns failure into fuel. That's the key. Let's address the fear. What if it doesn't work? That question paralyzes average minds. Obsessed minds ask a better question. What if I don't commit fully and never find out? Regret lasts longer than failure. Comfort is expensive. You pay for it with potential. You don't sacrifice success. You sacrifice distractions. Say it clearly. You don't sacrifice success. You sacrifice distractions. Distractions include backup plans that soothe anxiety. Anxiety is temporary. Regret is permanent. Obsession chooses temporary discomfort over lifelong wondering. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to go all in. You don't need permission to remove safety nets. You don't need permission to scare yourself with commitment. People will warn you. They'll say, be realistic. Have a plan B. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. They mean well, but they're speaking from a life of partial commitment. They've never burned the bridge. They've never felt what full alignment feels like. Obsession isn't for everyone. That's why winners are rare. This chapter locks in a truth you must carry forward. Exit plans dilute power. Total commitment sharpens execution. There is no alternative. When you eliminate retreat, everything inside you reorganizes. Your habits align. Your priorities clarify. Your discipline strengthens. You stop asking if it's worth it. You make it worth it. That's the key. You've learned to accept pressure. You've learned to isolate. You've learned to commit without escape. Now there's one final enemy left. The voice in your head that keeps score. The ego that needs recognition. The need to be seen. To reach the highest level of obsession, even that must go. You've burned the bridge. Now it's time to disappear into the work. Chapter 11. Results silence every critic. Doubt is loud at the beginning. Opinions are everywhere. Advice comes uninvited. Criticism shows up early. That's normal. Because when nothing has been proven yet, everyone feels qualified to talk. But listen carefully. Doubt is loud in the beginning and silent at the finish line. That's the key. Obsession doesn't argue. Obsession doesn't explain. Obsession doesn't defend itself. Obsession proves. Say it clearly. Let them doubt. I'll deliver. Most people waste enormous energy trying to be understood. They explain their plans. They justify their goals. They defend their pace. That's weakness disguised as communication. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to work quietly. You don't need permission to ignore opinions. You don't need permission to let results speak. Critics thrive on reaction. They feed on explanation. They grow louder when you engage. Silence starves them. Results end the conversation. That's the key. Psychologically, criticism triggers insecurity. It activates the need for validation, the urge to correct the record, the desire to be seen as competent. That urge is human, but obsession trains emotional independence. You stop needing agreement. You stop seeking approval. You stop measuring yourself by outside noise. It's not about confidence, it's about discipline. Discipline means staying on task despite emotional distraction. Criticism is distraction. Praise is distraction. Both pull you away from execution. Obsessed people are indifferent to both. They stay focused on output. That's the key. Here's a hard truth. If you're hearing criticism, it means you've started moving. People don't criticize what's standing still. They criticize what threatens their comfort. Your action exposes their inaction. So they talk. Let them. You have a choice. You can argue with people who aren't building. Or you can build so well that argument becomes irrelevant. One drains energy. The other compounds it. That's the key. Early doubt is unavoidable. Late doubt is non-existent. No one questions results. No one debates outcomes. They may hate you. They may envy you. But they won't dismiss you. Results demand respect. Even from people who don't like you. Especially from people who don't like you. Let them doubt. I'll deliver. Most people try to silence critics emotionally. They seek reassurance. They look for supporters. They gather agreement. Obsessed people silence critics structurally. By producing undeniable output. By stacking evidence. By showing up consistently. Day after day. Silence through delivery. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop announcing your plans. Stop explaining your vision. Stop defending your pace. Explanation invites debate. Debate invites doubt. Doubt invites hesitation. Execution invites nothing but results. Here's what you must start doing. Start tracking your own progress. Start measuring output, not opinions. Start building a private scoreboard. You don't need applause to improve. You need honesty. And honesty comes from numbers, reps, hours, and consistency. That's the key. Let's talk about emotional independence. Most people are emotionally outsourced. Their confidence rises with praise, falls with criticism. That's a fragile way to live. Obsessed people internalize authority. They decide what matters. They decide what counts. They decide when they're winning. External voices become background noise. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to trust your process. You don't need permission to stay quiet. You don't need permission to let time do the talking. Criticism also reveals impatience. People want immediate validation. They want recognition before results. Obsession delays gratification. You're willing to be doubted now to be undeniable later. That's discipline. Say it again. It's not about validation, it's about discipline. Discipline keeps you working when nobody believes. That's when it matters most. Because belief without evidence is rare. Evidence without belief still works. Results don't require agreement. They require effort. That's the key. Look at any high performer's early phase. Ignored. Questioned. Then look at the late phase. Silence. Not because critics changed their minds. Because critics ran out of arguments. Results ended the conversation. Let them doubt. I'll deliver. There's also a deeper layer. Criticism can become an excuse. Some people secretly enjoy being doubted. It gives them something to push against. It becomes identity. I'll show them. That's still reactive. Obsession doesn't work from spite. It works from commitment. You don't work to prove others wrong. You work to fulfill your own standard. That's the key. You don't need enemies to be disciplined. You need clarity. The goal is not revenge. The goal is execution. Use criticism as information, not fuel. If there's truth in it, adjust. If there's noise in it, ignore. No emotion either way. Neutrality is power. Emotional neutrality keeps you focused. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't deflate you. You stay steady. That steadiness compounds. That's the key. Here's a practice. The next time someone doubts you, do nothing. No response. No explanation. No defense. Write down what you'll produce instead. Redirect emotional energy into action. Turn noise into output. This trains emotional independence. This builds obsession. You have a choice. You can react, or you can produce. One feels good temporarily. The other changes your life permanently. That's the key. Remember this. People who talk a lot rarely build a lot. People who build a lot rarely talk. Results don't need volume. They need time. Stay quiet long enough and the work gets loud. Very loud. Let them doubt. I'll deliver. As results accumulate, something shifts. Critics stop engaging. Opinions fade. Attention changes. Some will suddenly support you. Some will pretend they believed all along. Some will disappear. None of that matters. Because by then, you won't need them. You'll have proof. Proof creates freedom. Freedom from explanation. Freedom from validation. Freedom from emotional dependence. That's the key. This chapter locks in emotional independence. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't defend. You deliver. Obsession doesn't shout. It stacks results quietly until silence is forced. You've learned to commit fully. You've learned to remove exit plans. You've learned to work unseen. Now comes the final truth. Obsession is not a phase. It's a lifelong standard. It doesn't turn off when you win. It sharpens. Because success creates new pressure, new levels, new expectations, new tests. You've silenced the critics. Now you must learn to outgrow yourself again. Because obsession never finishes. It evolves. You've reached the point where obsession becomes identity. Now it's time to lock it in forever. Chapter 12. Obsession becomes identity. At the beginning, obsession feels forced. You push yourself. You remind yourself. You fight resistance daily. That's normal. Because in the early phase, obsession is in action. But over time, something changes. The effort fades. The struggle quiets. The discipline settles in. And obsession stops being something you do. It becomes who you are. That's the key. Eventually, obsession is no longer effort. It's automatic. You don't wake up debating. You don't ask how you feel. You don't negotiate with excuses. You move. Because this is who you are now. Say it clearly. This is who I am now. Identity is the strongest force in human behavior. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. That's psychology. That's biology. That's truth. When obsession becomes identity, discipline no longer feels heavy. It feels normal. You don't feel disciplined for brushing your teeth. You don't feel disciplined for locking your door. You don't feel disciplined for showing up to your craft. You just do it. That's the goal. Most people never reach this level. They stay stuck chasing motivation. Motivation to start. Motivation to continue. Motivation to finish. Motivation is unstable. Identity is permanent. You have a choice. You can build a life that depends on mood, or you can build a life that runs on standards. One collapses under stress. The other thrives under pressure. That's the key. When obsession becomes identity, standards replace feelings. You don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What does someone like me do?" And then you do it. No drama. No debate. No delay. It's not about willpower, it's about discipline. Discipline rewires identity. Every repeated action sends a message to your brain. This is who I am. Skip enough days and the message weakens. Show up enough days and the message hardens. Identity is built through repetition. That's the key. Early on, discipline feels like control. Later, it feels like freedom. Because when your behavior is predictable, your mind relaxes. No internal conflict. No guilt cycles. No self-betrayal. You trust yourself. Trust creates calm. Calm creates focus. Focus creates dominance. This is how obsession matures. Let's be clear. Identity-based obsession is not obsession with results. It's obsession with standards. Results come and go. Wins happen. Losses happen. But standards stay. You don't rise and fall emotionally with outcomes. You stay anchored. That's power. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to redefine yourself. You don't need permission to outgrow your old identity. You don't need permission to let the old version of you die. Most people cling to who they used to be. It feels familiar. It feels safe. But it's also limiting. Obsession demands an identity upgrade. You are not trying anymore. You are not working on it. You are it. Say it again. This is who I am now. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop labeling yourself as inconsistent. Stop telling stories about being lazy, unfocused, or unlucky. Stop identifying with your past failures. Those labels lock behavior. Language shapes identity. Identity shapes action. Change the language. Here's what you must start doing. Start speaking in standards. Start describing yourself as disciplined, focused, committed. Start acting in alignment with that description. Even before you fully believe it. Action creates belief. Belief does not create action. That's the key. Your brain learns identity through evidence. Every time you show up when it's hard, you provide proof. Every time you act without motivation, you reinforce identity. Eventually, the brain stops questioning. It accepts. This is who we are. At that point, obsession is effortless. Not because the work is easy, but because resistance is gone. You've removed internal friction. You are aligned. Alignment is unstoppable. This is where long-term dominance comes from. Not bursts of effort. Not temporary grind. Consistency over years. Identity-based consistency. Most people can push for weeks. Very few can live a standard for decades. That's what separates winners from everyone else. That's the key. Let's talk about sustainability. Burnout happens when behavior is forced against identity. When you act in ways that don't feel like you. Obsession as identity eliminates burnout. Because you're not forcing anything. You're expressing who you are. A runner runs. A builder builds. A disciplined person executes. No internal conflict. No emotional drag. This is why obsession must mature into identity. Otherwise, it breaks you. With identity, it strengthens you. You have a choice. You can return to who you were. Or you can lock in who you've become. One is familiar. The other is powerful. That's the key. Here's a reality check. Identity never stays neutral. If you don't reinforce it, it decays. Standards either rise or fall. There is no maintenance mode. That's why obsession never turns off. It doesn't mean intensity forever. It means standards forever. You don't relax discipline. You normalize it. You don't celebrate consistency. You expect it. This is where most people misunderstand success. They think winning gives permission to coast. It doesn't. Winning gives responsibility to sustain. Obsession understands that. This is who I am now. Let those words settle. Not as hype. Not as motivation. As a decision. Decisions end debate. Once identity is chosen, behavior follows. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to choose a harder identity. You don't need permission to hold yourself to higher standards. You don't need permission to live differently than everyone around you. Most people will never understand this level. They'll call it extreme. They'll call it unhealthy. They'll call it unnecessary. They're wrong. They're speaking from the perspective of comfort. You've moved beyond that. Obsession as identity is calm. It's quiet. It's stable. It's relentless. No hype. No noise. Just execution. Day after day. Year after year. That's dominance. This chapter locks in the final transformation. You are no longer building obsession. You are living it. You don't chase motivation. You live standards. You don't hope to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You don't wonder who you are becoming. You've decided, this is who I am now. And with that identity comes a responsibility. To protect it. To reinforce it. To live up to it. Because obsession isn't a goal you reach. It's a lifestyle you maintain. You've completed the journey. From curiosity, to commitment, to discipline, to identity. Now there's nothing left to search for. Only something to live. You've conquered average thinking. You've burned the exit plans. You've silenced doubt with results. Now it's time to carry this forward into every area of your life. Every day. Every decision. Every standard. Obsession didn't change what you do. It changed who you are. And that change is permanent. Let this be clear. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is not knowledge. It's obsession. You already know what to do. You just haven't committed hard enough to do it every day, especially when it's uncomfortable. Average weights. Winners obsess. From this moment forward, you don't dabble. You don't try. You don't negotiate with weakness. You wake up obsessed. You work obsessed. You go to sleep obsessed. Because the world doesn't reward balance. It rewards those who refuse to quit. So here's the challenge. Choose one goal. Commit fully for the next 90 days. No excuses. No breaks. No validation. Become obsessed. Or stay exactly where you are.